And welcome to our live stream for this Friday afternoon. Pam Kay, senior producer for the Huckabee Show, joins me here, and we'll be taking a lot of your questions today. We've got some really fun videos that we're going to be showing you and commenting on those. But we always love to have you send questions in the chat. So go ahead and start doing that now. And if you want more visibility, send us a super chat. We got moderators who are watching the line, checking on your questions, and we'll get as many of them to us as possible. Now, if you've not already subscribed, don't you think it's time? Maybe you've been with us on a dozen live streams. You've yet to subscribe. This is the day, so do it. Hit the notification bell, leave us a comment, hit the like button, and share it with your friends. Now, some of the things we're going to be talking about today include we're going to hear Dr. Fauci. I know you've been dying to know what he's thinking lately, especially in light of the federal judge taking the mask requirement off. I'll talk about that in a moment. But I just think it will be a fun time. We also have Kamala Harris, who talks about space. No, not the space between her ears, another space that we will also be discussing, and a whole lot more. So that's coming up in the course of this. Now, you may remember last week I asked you with my question of the week was, what message do Republicans need to put forward as a reason to vote for them in November? And here were some of the responses that we got. We got this from JRS, says Republicans need to close America's borders and open up oil production. Mary Burks said Biden has given us plenty of reasons to vote Republican. Mary, you're right. John Van Duren said the Republicans need to show that they would reinstate the Trump programs that had America safe, prosperous, strong, and energy independent. We were America under Trump's leadership. A person describing himself as life and more abundantly, I happen to think he must be a believer, taking that verse from John 10:10 in the New Testament. He says, is there actually a Republican Party? Shouldn't there be a real effort in enforcing Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution in placing the military at the borders? Real leaders would actually start doing this. Now, I love this moniker for this individual, North Dakota Ham. I don't know if this person is a ham in the sense of exhibitionist, or if it has to do with the part of the pig that we roast. But he says Republicans, the economy, the southern border, supply chain problems, get our military back to normal so it can be prepared to protect the nation, investigate the corruption in D.C., but don't let it take 2 years. We need swift justice. I do agree with that. And then Brown Bear. I don't know if this one is from Alaska or not, but the person's moniker is Brown Bear. Says GOP needs to let the people know that once they are in charge, we're going to go back to being energy independent. All good comments. Now this week, we have a different question we'd love for you to weigh in on, and we'll give some answers to it next week. But the question of the week is this: will you continue to wear a mask on plane, train, or bus, even if you don't have to? Leave your answers in the chat, or if you're watching this after the stream is over, you can leave your answers in the comments below. By the way, yesterday, Pam, I was on an airplane for the first time in 2 years and did not have to wear a mask.
And how did that feel?
Well, you didn't ask me if I wore the mask.
Well, that's true. Did you wear your mask, sir?
Absolutely not. I did not.
Right.
And it was the most wonderful feeling. I felt liberated. I really did. I walked into the airport and I didn't have to reach into my pocket and immediately put a mask on. And I walked all over the airport without it. I got on the plane, no mask, enjoyed the flight. It was delightful. I could breathe better. It was just a more pleasant, less stressful flight.
What about the rest of the plane? Did you
What
notice the rest
surprised me was how many people were still wearing a mask in the airport or on the plane. Now, it wasn't anything like half, but probably maybe 25%, maybe a fourth. And I was surprised because I figured people would be like me and would be burning those things in the concourses. And you know, some people may be immune compromised and need to wear a mask, or they're going through a health issue, or the doctor has told them, look, you should wear a mask. And I want to make very clear, if you want to wear a mask on the plane or in the airport, knock yourself out. Makes no difference to me. You don't have to explain that to me because I don't care. It's none of my business why you wear a mask. It's your choice. But just please respect that my choice is I ain't wearing that thing no more. And I hope that there's no attempt to put it back. But let's take a look at this because Dr. Fauci, we hadn't seen him, at least I haven't, in a few weeks. He's back. And of course, he's talking about the mask. He's responding to a question about the judge in Florida overturning the CDC mask mandate. And to put it in a simple term, he ain't too happy about it. Watch.
This is a public health matter. This is not a judicial matter. The CDC has the obligation to protect the American public. The problems that we have there is that the principle of a court overruling a public health judgment by a qualified organization like the CDC is disturbing in the precedent that it might send.
Let me tell you what's disturbing, Tony Fauci, that you are so ignorant of the Constitution that you don't understand that the purpose of the court is to protect our liberties, not the stinking CDC. I'm sorry, I'm pretty animated about this. When I heard him say that, I just thought, this guy's been living in a government bureaucratic cage too long. Somebody needs to take the food dish away from his cage. Good gosh, man, go back and read the Constitution. The purpose of our government is to protect our liberties, not a federal bureaucracy and a regulatory agency. Does the CDC have a responsibility to tell us maybe what is in our best interest? Yes. But they don't have the power to tell us what to do. They don't have that power. They're not a force of law. And I want to tell you something. For the past 2 years, I had to bite my tongue every time on an airplane the announcement came on that said, you must wear your mask by federal law. And I wanted to stand up and say, there is no federal law about a mask. It is a regulation. And for those of you that don't understand the difference, a law requires that our elected legislators debate it, decide on it, and agree upon it, and pass a bill in both the House and the Senate that then goes to the executive branch and a president signs it. And then you have bureaucratic agencies who have the power to carry it out. You don't have these bureaucratic agencies who have the power to call what they do law. They have certain capacities and they have certain powers, but it ain't a law. And I just cringe every time I heard that because I said, how many people failed to pass civics in the 9th grade and don't understand that? Apparently, Tony Fauci didn't pass civics. And I was really disturbed that he's thinking that, oh, it's terrible these courts are making decisions that ought to be made by the CDC. I don't remember the CDC being in the Constitution. Maybe I missed something. Could be. Didn't catch it all. All right, here's the next Dr. Fauci clip. He's asked, does the CDC have any power anymore if a judge can say, no thanks to its mandates? Watch this.
But does the CDC, with all respect, have any power anymore if one judge can say no thanks to its mandates?
Well, that's what we're worried about, Bob. We're worried about a precedent that would be a dangerous precedent.
I got a bigger danger that I'd like to mention to you, Dr. Fauci. It's the precedent that you would tell the courts to go pound sand while you let a bureaucrat in an agency, someone no one elected to anything, no one appointed to anything, they just got hired because their uncle was in a high place in the political kingdom, and somehow he gets to decide for the rest of the country what all of us must do. That is disturbing. It shouldn't be that complicated. This third clip I want to play, this is Biden's top COVID advisor, Ashish Jha, who is talking about the goal of let's make sure the CDC has a little more power. Watch.
The appeal, no question, a major goal of the appeal is to make sure that the CDC has the authority and the ability to protect Americans during health crises like this. And whether that is used now or is used later or in a future pandemic, it's essential that the CDC be able to retain this ability to do things that are going to keep Americans safe.
The CDC doesn't have the power to make Americans safe. We have some entities that are supposed to do that. One is the military, keep us safe from enemies, foreign and domestic. But if it comes to a disease, the CDC's job is to do research, give us the best advice, and if they advise that we absolutely must wear masks to save our lives, then let me tell you what the CDC's role is. Go to Congress and tell Congress that they need to do that. And then Congress, if you believe that the people of your congressional districts, if they want masks, then vote for it. I'm tired of Congress being a bunch of wimps, and they don't want to take the political pressure for making decisions, so they pass it off to some bureaucratic agency. That's not how it's supposed to work. So if the CDC says we got to wear masks, we ought to wear masks, don't let the CDC enforce it. Let Congress pass a law. And let's see if these members of Congress want to go back home to their constituents and tell them, you got to wear a mask. Your 2-year-old has to wear a mask on an airplane, and your 6-year-old has to wear a mask in school. Let you do that. You wanted the job, you got elected, now do the stinking job. Don't pass it off to Tony Fauci and this dude at the White House who somehow thinks that we ought to bow down and kiss the ring of whoever is running the CDC at any given moment. Have you kind of noticed that I'm maybe just a little bit on edge
Just
about
a little
this?
riled up you are today, sir.
A little bit? Oh boy, you don't know the half of it.
Okay.
We got some questions, maybe
We
will
do
calm me
indeed, and a
down.
reminder that our question of the day is, will you continue to wear a mask on planes, trains, or buses, even if you don't have to?
Mark
So
me down as a
answer
no.
this. All right, we'll do that right
I
away,
know that'll
sir.
be a shock
Yes.
to you, Pam, but I'm a no.
All right, here we go. Sue Prov asks to you, Governor, today, will the United States become a cashless society?
Ooh, good question, Sue. I don't think it'll happen immediately, but quite frankly, I think we are headed toward that. You know, there are places now you go and they say, we don't take cash, which is a little stunning to me. They'll just say, we don't take any cash. I'm seeing lots of places that say, we don't take any change and we don't make it. So whatever you buy better be rounded up to the dollar because they're not going to make any change in coins. So the answer is not this year, not probably next year, but are we headed in that direction? The answer is yes.
All right, we're probably going to go down a little spiritual path, Governor.
Okay.
So put on your pastor cap. Stan Counts asks, do you think God still has a plan for our country?
Oh yeah, God always has a plan for everything and everybody and all of us in it. Now, you know, I'm not one who believes that God is dependent upon America. If America falls, God's still there. Now, let me say this. If we fail to acknowledge God, we may not stand. God will. He's not dependent upon us, but I do believe that America is dependent upon Him. And I do not believe there would be an America had it not been for the intervention of God in our founding, as He answered the prayers of our founding fathers, and He heard the cries of their desire to have liberty and freedom, and He granted them wisdom to design a magnificent document called the Constitution. Not saying it's inspired in the manner in which the Scripture is inspired, but I would say it's inspired. And there's some genius in the way in which our government was structured. I don't have time to get into all of that. You can read a book I wrote with Steve Fiesel called The 3 C's That Made America Great: the Constitution, Capitalism, and Christianity. And if you want to read that, I'll give you a detailed explanation about it. But I do think God has a plan for us. Now, the question is, are we willing to obey that plan? I absolutely believe He's got a plan. I'm not too confident that America is smart enough right now, given our direction, to follow His plan for us. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, leave us a comment, a like, and share this with other people.
All
Okay.
right. Thank you, Governor. Sir, rumors are, according to Morgana Dundee, Harris is out as VP and Mayor Pete is in. Ha, she says. Can the Dems find anyone that's not nuts?
Ooh, what a... Is that a self-answering question?
I don't know, but I think she's a little riled up too.
I love that. You know, it's almost like that's a question that answers itself.
Yeah.
I don't have to, and I probably shouldn't. So, but thank you for that, Morgana. I love that. That's my chuckle of the day, to be sure. Let me go to another couple of clips. This is about the gas hikes that we're seeing. Anybody who's gone to the pump lately, if you've squeezed the handle, you know that we're paying a great deal more for fuel. Joe Biden continues to say that it is all because of Vladimir Putin. Watch.
The second big reason for inflation is gas prices, and it's Vladimir Putin's gas price increase. Putin's invasion of Ukraine has driven up gas prices and food prices all around the world.
I'm not sure sometimes what he was even talking about, but I can guarantee you this. Gas prices were hiking dramatically before Putin invaded Ukraine. And we could have no need whatsoever for Russian oil. Nobody in the world would need it if we'd open up the spigots of American oil and gas. We got plenty, several hundred years worth under our own feet in this country. You know who turned those spigots off? Joe Biden did. And I'm not just talking about the Keystone XL pipeline. He shut down the permitting processes on federal lands. He made it much more difficult in a regulatory way for any exploration to be continued offshore and on federal property. And the net result is that we have less of a supply. When you have less supply, but the demand is the same, the price goes up. This is not complicated. This is the most fundamental thing about economics. It is, as people say, economics 101. I don't know if it's 101 or 102, 3, 4, 5, and 6, but it's the most foundational principle of economics. Everything has to do with supply and demand. And if there's very little demand, the price goes down. If there's a very strong demand, the price goes up. And if there is a strong demand and a lowering supply, the price really goes up. What we have is that the supply has been diminished largely by Biden's policies, not by the invasion of Russia into the Ukraine. And the net result is the demand is still high. Result, high prices. You're paying them. Thank you, Joe. That's who you need to thank for that. Now, Biden is at the same time telling us the prices are high. He tells us we need to get off oil. Watch this.
But we need to do something else. We need to get off this roller coaster of relying on oil.
It's really not a roller coaster, Joe. I mean, the fact is, so much of what fuels our economy is petroleum-based. Now, I'd love to see us all go green and sustainable, and I'd like to ride a unicorn in the Leprechaun Rodeo and maybe even win the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But there's a lot of things that we're not ready for, and that's one of them, to have a totally green culture. By the way, did you know that today is Earth Day?
It is Earth Day today, yes.
So all of you that really believe in Joe's policies, it's Earth Day. Go out and get a bowl, put a big pile of dirt in it, and let that be your dinner. Earth Day. How about that?
So there you go, a little mud for dinner. All right, Life and Life More Abundantly is with us again this week, by the way, Guff, and asks, is there actually a Republican Party at all, or is it just a facade? Shouldn't there be a real effort in enforcing Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution?
Well, there is a Republican Party, and there are varying degrees of people who adhere to its fundamental principles. I often hear people say, why don't we just have a third party? And it sounds really good, but let me tell you why it's impractical. Unless you have more money than Elon Musk, and even if you had that much, I'm not sure you'd have enough to make this work, the parties are pretty much what they are because they have a couple of hundred years of tradition and the building of the infrastructure to make them a viable party with all kinds of the apparatus all the way down to the neighborhood level. To recreate that would be cost prohibitive. The closest thing came to it was in 1992 with Ross Perot, and he had a bunch of money, he spent a bunch of money, and even he couldn't get more than 17% of the vote. The problem is, you might have a good train, but trains don't really run if you don't have a good track. And it's the track that the parties create. So having a great message and great candidates, incredibly important, not minimizing it. It's the single most important, but they're worthless without the track. And the track is the apparatus of the party, all of the organization that goes down to the precinct and even into the neighborhoods. That's why it's difficult. So the best thing to do, rather than start a new party, is to work really hard to make the parties we have truly reflective of the people who are a part of them.
All right, Governor. Joseph F. Adario Sr. says, I'm tired of all this talk. Answer me. What can we do to change the Biden cartel?
Let me quote Barack Obama. Elections have consequences. Why are we in this mess? Because in 2020, Donald Trump was replaced by Joe Biden. I'm not here to litigate the rightness or wrongness of the election or what should have happened or what did happen, because I can't fix it. It's too late. We can't undo the done. But we can make doggone sure that we have absolutely clean, transparent elections in the future. That's one thing we can do. But you know what? Half the people who are of voting age aren't even registered to vote in this country. I don't know if you knew that. And of the half that are registered, about half don't even vote, even in a presidential election. So think about what would happen if all the people who are passionate about what's happening in the country would do whatever it takes to go vote. Make sure that they voted, whether they absentee voted, early voted, voted on election day, but they did not miss their opportunity to vote. It would have a transforming effect. Let me speak now as an evangelical Christian believer. If all the Christians, just the evangelicals, and if you add to that all of our Catholic brothers and sisters and so many other people who are also Christian with us, if all of us voted who are eligible, there would never be an election in this country that was not completely dominated by the faith vote. And that's just a fact. So when people tell me they don't like the way the elections turn out, my first question, did you vote? If they say yes, I said, good. How many other people did you try to influence? That's what we need to do, and it is so very critical. I told you I was going to give you this wonderful little clip of Kamala Harris. She was speaking to a group of people at the U.S. Space Force. Now, this is written. She's reading off a teleprompter. So this rhetoric that she is delivering, it sounds off the cuff. What's sad, it isn't. This was actually scripted. Watch.
Space is exciting. It spurs our imaginations, and it forces us to ask big questions. Space, it affects us all, and it connects us all.
My 11-year-old grandson, I promise, could give a more enlightening, inspirational speech about the opportunities of space than what I just heard. It absolutely is stunning to me that she's Vice President of the United States, and her big line is, space connects us. As we await the applause that never came, because the people out there were scratching their heads and saying, what in the world is she talking about? We got probably one more question.
Yes, well, we've also got results to our poll today,
okay.
too. We asked, will you continue to wear a mask on plane, trains, or buses, even if you don't have to? 349 voting today, Governor. 93% says no. Well, and yes, 6% is what we've got. So we've got a super chat from Terry Ballou, and she just wanted to say, love you and your show. Thanks for the laughs.
Thank you, Terry. God bless you. I hope somebody pays your gasoline bill when you go to the pump next week. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely. And so let's see. Jay Luther is saying today, too, the CDC passed all of this under Trump. Fauci was Trump's problem for a year.
Fauci's been there since the 80s. Donald Trump had him as part of the task force because he didn't know why not. He and Birx were both people who've been longtime bureaucrats. We all listened to Fauci in the early days. You know, we all did. I did too. I thought, this guy's smart. We ought to, see what he said. None of us knew what was going on with COVID. It was a whole new world. Then we started saying, wait a minute, something isn't adding up. Fauci's saying this didn't originate in the lab at Wuhan. It was something based on a wet market with monkeys and stuff. And That didn't really add up. And then he said, don't wear a mask. It's dangerous to wear a mask. Then a month later, he said, oh, you got to wear a mask. If you don't, you're going to die. Then he said later in the summer, you got to wear 3 masks. That would be better. You know, and I wanted to say, what, if you wear 2 bathing suits, it's okay to pee in the pool? I'm sorry, that's rather crude, but I mean, how much of this stuff did we buy? It just got to be ridiculous. And then it was all about control, not about controlling the virus, but about controlling us. So I think a lot of us have just sort of said, you know, if you can't be consistent, then that's not science anymore. Hey, I know our time's gone. We got to tell you how grateful we are. I hope you will leave your questions in the comment section, especially this one that we've asked you today. Will you continue to wear a mask on public conveyances, even if you don't have to? But be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. We always say thank you for joining us. But remember this weekend, do not miss the Huckabee Show on TBN. You want to know why? Here's why.
This week on Huckabee, Truth Social CEO Devin Nunes, political insider Monica Crowley, straight edge comedian Dan Brown, legendary guitarist James Burton, and Christian rock band The Newsboys. Watch Huckabee on Saturday at 8, 7 Central, and again on Sunday at 9, 8 Central, right here on TBN.